Welcome to the Recovery Daily Podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Miller. I'm a stroke survivor and grateful recovering alcoholic. And today I had a little bit of a breakdown. So, my topic today is emotional breakdown or spiritual checkpoint. And this notion of spiritual checkpoint is something that I heard somebody say once in one of my sobriety meetings, and I thought it makes me chuckle really, because in the program we always find a way to shift our thinking to something positive and an opportunity to learn, um, and I woke up poopy today. I did. I woke up poopy, and I thought I had my doctor's appointment with my primary care physician today, and I would have thought that would have put me in an encouraging mood, that I was going to be seeing the doctor and sharing some of my symptoms that I've been dealing with. And I just woke up just feeling like a little hopeless, I think. So I do not get a Hope Star today. And before my doctor's appointment, I talked with some folks from work to talk about long-term planning as far as like insurance goes and logging hours and what long term looks like. So I'm purposely being a little vague there, but I just felt very discouraged today. Just everything I did felt very discouraging. So I went to the doctor's appointment and I shared with them, gosh, I've lost like 20 pounds, is what the scale said. So I've lost 20 pounds. That's sign number one for me that I'm not mentally happy when I've lost that kind of weight. So even though I love just not having to, squeeze my clothes on. Anyway, I make fun, but it's probably not funny. So I went to the doctor, found out I was 20 pounds underweight, and then not 20 pounds underweight. I had lost 20 pounds. I'm still in a fine weight. I'm a little under like the average weight for my height and my age, but I think I'm healthy. I'm just a lot smaller than I was a few months ago. So then I talked to her about what's going on as far as not making any progress with being able to look at digital devices, not making any progress with being able to ride in the car or drive or anything else. I shared with her that walking is difficult, not the walking process, but visually watching things move while I'm walking and all that. And then I shared with her some of the more stuff that's making me a little more nervous about being forgetful and like leaving the hose on outside and leaving the bathroom sink on and putting the butter in the cabinet and having been thinking about something. I don't know if I shared this on the podcast or not. I think I did, but I was laying in bed the other day. I had just woken up and I was laying there for a while, just thinking. And I was thinking about something for like a good minute or so. And I wasn't doing anything else. I was just thinking about whatever this thing was that I was thinking of. And then, like the flick of a switch, all of a sudden it was gone. Whatever I was thinking about was just gone. It left my mind. And I couldn't remember what I was thinking about. And it like caused me like a panic attack feeling, a mini one. I mean, I've had massive panic attacks. This is just like a mini one. And like a hot flash. And I was like, oh my God, what is happening in my head? And then the same thing happened 3 more times. It happened 4 times total while I was laying there in bed. I was laying there for a while. And it's just it's scary because I'm like, am I getting worse? Like what is happening? This stuff wasn't happening when I had my stroke 2 years ago. And this is why this MRI is so important that I need to get, and yet I'm just sitting here waiting for freaking insurance to approve it. It's just it doesn't make any sense to me that my life is in the hands of these insurance people who are just pushing paper. They're pushing paper. So that's aggravating to me and frustrating, and I've just got all these emotions around that. And then when I was talking to the doctor about these things, we're talking about what does long term look like for me? Like originally when I had gone to see her a little over a month ago, we had determined that we were going to 6 months, it was going to be our first checkpoint, and I was going to go to vision therapy for 6 months and go see the neurologist and all of this, and we were going to check back in and see where am I at in 6 months. So that hasn't changed. I'm still going to do that, but the fact that I've made zero progress, zero improvements um, in a little over 2 months makes me feel discouraged that anything's going to be different in 6 months. Um, so we were talking about all of the things that are involved as far as paperwork you have to fill out, and short-term disability and long-term disability, and insurance through work, and Medicare and Cobra, and all of these things that I'm learning about, and I assure you I will be an expert on them in like 2 weeks. If you ask me in 2 weeks, I'll know everything there is to know about these things because that's just how I roll. But right now it seems a little overwhelming. But learning voiceover on my phone and on my computer seemed overwhelming too, and I just do it now. Um, so I will tackle that like I tackle everything. But she said to me, I think we're talking long term, long term. I think this is going to be something that we need to look into. She didn't say a time. She just not implied, but said that we probably need to start looking into Medicare and all that stuff. And so I was thinking, I mean, this is the real deal. This is what's happening in my life. I just can't believe it. I can't believe, I remember filling out my insurance stuff every year and being like, all right, I need to have life insurance. I need to have short term disability. I need to have long term disability. And I'm like, when on earth would I have something happen to me, unless it's a car accident or something, happen to me that I need long term disability? And I realized, yes, car accidents happen to everybody. But what I never would have imagined in my wildest nightmares that I was going to have a stroke, so I think this is number one, an example to absolutely anybody at any age needs to make sure that their insurance is taking care of any possible situation that could happen. You just don't know. I had no idea that this was going to be happening to me. I'm 49 now, and I had the stroke when I was 46. So it's just, prepare. Let this be a lesson that you need to prepare for anything. So she was also talking about, the doctor was talking about how it's possible because of some of these issues with me doing weird things like not being able to remember what I was thinking or remember what I was saying or being forgetful and leaving water running and stuff, that I might need to consider going to Johns Hopkins or GW, and I may end up needing to switch my neurologist and get go to brain PT and all of these things. So uh, it's that the thought of even asking my boyfriend to drive me back and forth to Johns Hopkins and stuff just seems, I just feel so bad. And I know that I shouldn't, but I do. And I know that without question, undoubtedly, he's going to just stand up and do it because that's who he is. And but there's this like, I want to take care of him. I want to make sure he's okay. I know that I'm the patient, but I know that the people around me, him, who needs to take care of me, it's a lot of pressure on him. And I can't help but wish that I could do something to take care of him. I don't know if other people in recovery feel that way. I know that when I had first entered recovery um, in sobriety, I did have this feeling about like when I was going to my sobriety meetings all the time and getting new sober friends and all that stuff, I would think about him and think, I hope he's okay with all of this. I hope that he understands, and he did, without question. And so I know it's the same sort of situation here. And like I always say, I'm drawing parallels to when I was entering recovery as an alcoholic. So, but it just helps to, I think, share that out loud, that that's how I'm feeling. So with the doctor introducing some of these bigger ideas about, um, starting to think more about my future and what it's going to look like and what treatment looks like, and me having to be in the car for over an hour a couple times a week, that's going to be a lot for my head. And right now, I wasn't even going to the vision therapist at the office because they didn't want to trigger my symptoms. So what happens if I have to go to Johns Hopkins? So just so much to think about. And and beyond all of that, I'm still back at step one where I'm like, what about my work? What about my job? What about my career that I was doing so great at? Um, so I just I got home. We got a fantastic meal, so that was my reward. We got a fantastic lamb shank meal, Tuesday special at Moby Dick's. It's amazing. So we had that, and then I took a nap. And when I woke up from my nap, I just started crying. And I picked up the phone and I texted my brother, my sister, and my mom and told them what was going on. And then I called my dad, and my stepmother picked up the phone because he was driving. Good job, stepmother and dad. And and I just started crying, and I was like, I'm I'm sad, I'm overwhelmed, I'm scared, I'm and everything she said was wonderful. She said you're so smart and you're going to figure out this new path that you're on, and you should feel upset, and then if you didn't, we would be more concerned. So it's natural for me to feel upset, and it was everything that I needed to hear. It really was. It was a short conversation, but it was everything I needed to hear, and I'm really happy that if you're listening, I'm really happy that you picked up the phone, and I really needed it right at that very minute. And I'm happy that I got it from you. So I love you and thank you so much. Um, and so I have just been, I mean, that kind of picked me up off of my butt when I talked to her. And then my dad called me when he was not driving anymore, called me and again said so many things that I needed to hear, and he talked to me about how much I'm exploring new things, and how as long as I continue to stay motivated, um, that I will find what is in store for me. And he was talking about how we don't know when we're 20 years old what lies ahead of us, and sometimes we're in the middle of our lives and we still don't know what is in store for us. He is a great example where he had one career, and then when he retired, he ended up building his own company and did amazing, and it just took off, and so you just don't know what's ahead of you. But what I do know is that my dad didn't just try to do that company once. He tried over and over again, and eventually it was a success. And he gave me a comparison. Oh, I didn't write down the name of the person. Sorry, Dad. But he was talking about an individual who I think he said he had a stroke. I'm sorry if I'm ripping up the story, but I'll get the point across at least. But the person ended up being disabled, severely disabled, and yet just kept being motivated and kept learning and growing, and ended up being just an inspirational person. Still, I think he worked for a news channel, and being sorry, Dad, I'm totally ruining the story. Uh, and ended up still being an inspiration, like beyond words, as a disabled person. And he said that, Rachel, you can have many failures, but you only have to succeed once. And that makes me think of how my father, was just always trying to move forward with his company, and how eventually it worked, and it was a success. It was an incredible success, not just a small success, an incredible success. So I think Dad is definitely an example to me today, um, and I'll find whatever path is ahead of me. I'll figure it out. I know that. But I think today I needed to pick up the phone and have somebody tell me that. And so that's what I did. And so let's see. So Dad also talked to me about how this podcast, how some of the stuff I'm talking about is stuff that I'm learning and I'm just sharing it, and a lot of it is just talking about my feelings. And he said that there's a lot of feelings that you talk about that other people may not even realize that they feel until you say it. And that's really the reason why I wanted to do this podcast, is because I knew from day one, when I entered into this stroke recovery for the second time, going on short term disability, I knew at that time, and this is why it was so hard, that this was going to be a long road. I knew that whatever was happening was not going to be fixed overnight. And I wanted to share my experience, strength, and hope about it because, maybe not today, maybe not next year, but sometime, as long as Spotify stays online, somebody's going to hear this and be able to relate as a stroke survivor. And if I can just help one person by sharing my feelings about what I'm going through, and somebody can listen to it and say, I know exactly what she's feeling, then then all of this was worth it for me, all of it. Um, because if I just hold it in and don't share it, the only person I can save is myself. And although that's very valuable, I would much prefer to spread the wealth a little bit. So my dad encouraged me to use my frustrations for the future, and said that I'm very bright and there's not much I can't do. And he was talking about how I was a math major, and how that uses one side of your brain, and the stuff that I'm doing here uses the other side of the brain. And I thought, well, I was either in the wrong major, or I'm not doing the. Anyway, no, it really, all of that was very encouraging for me, and I need to be open to whatever the future holds for me, and I can't be open to it if I don't show up. And so I'm here again. I think this is the second time I've done a podcast, that episode, that I was feeling like, ugh, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. It's like somebody telling me to eat my lima beans. I don't want to do it. But I feel better already from doing it. I told my doctor that I was doing this, and she said that that was great also. So I was jotting down some notes about my feelings and the emotional changes that I've been going through, and what some of these feelings are, like being very aware of my boyfriend's feelings and making sure that I need him to stay healthy and be happy and unstressed, so I'm very aware of that, as I mentioned earlier, and feeling like I'm going through some grief. A lot of grief. I really love my job, and so I'm definitely going through some grief there. I need to look up the stages of grief again and see where I'm at there, because I feel like I've shifted to a new stage today. I also was listening to some articles online, and how they said things about putting on a brave face, and how unhealthy it is to constantly put on a brave face. And I thought of that today when I was talking to my dad, because when my dad called me back, I didn't cry at all. I was actually like kind of laughing and feeling more lighthearted. And he mentioned something about me not crying, and I was thinking, well, I wonder if I'm putting on a brave face for my dad. Like, that's what was going through my head. But what I was honestly thinking was that I had already cried what I needed to cry when my stepmother answered the phone. Like, that was all I needed, really, was just that little outbreak. But I know that I do put on a brave face. I know that I do, because I feel like it's not, I don't want to be a burden on anyone. I know that if I just break down to people, what are they going to say? I feel like I'm going to make people feel uncomfortable. Like, there's nothing they can say to make things better. So I don't want to put them in that position to feel like they have to give me some words of wisdom or something like that. Um, so anyway, but there is this, there is a point where I need to acknowledge how I'm feeling to other people. And I don't think I'm doing that enough. My doctor increased my anxiety medication because I did share some uh, stories about feeling some panic attack episodes over the past couple weeks, and so she went ahead and increased it a little bit, especially because dealing with insurance and all that stuff is just going to add to the stress, which is really unfortunate. But what I was reading online is that people in recovery from a stroke can experience panic attacks. This is natural for the first 5 years. And I'm sure it's because of dealing with not only um, the life, losing the life that you had before, but dealing with all the paperwork that you have to deal with, and money and insurance, and your loved ones around you and how they are handling it. It's so much. I mean, it's a major life event. They call it that for a reason. They allow you to change insurance at major life events. That's how important it is that insurance actually understands it. So the doctor said that she wants to treat the anxiety before it gets any worse, for to make sure that it doesn't increase my symptoms, because stress will inhibit my recovery. So increasing my medication slightly will allow me to focus on recovery, and it's important that I try to, like, not have a lot of muscle tension and all of that stuff. So she encouraged me to continue doing yoga. I need to get more motivated to do yoga daily. So I've made a mental note of that, and I actually was going to end the episode that way. Talk about what did I get from today? What did I get from this spiritual checkpoint? That it started out as a little bit of an emotional breakdown, but my day is ending as a spiritual checkpoint, and that's what I have to do in order to, pick up my shovel, right? I'm picking up my shovel, and I'm going to start building my sandcastle again, because sometimes my sandcastle gets washed away on a daily basis, depending on the day, and I've got to pick my shovel back up. So that's what I'm doing. And there was something I heard today also about when we don't look like we had a stroke. It can mean that you look really good, but it can also mean that nobody can see what you're going through on a daily basis. And that's, it's even more important, and not more important, but it's just as important to share how you're feeling with the people around you. So, um, I jotted a note down just to close out the episode here. I jotted a few notes down on what I didn't do today, what I did do today, and what I'm going to do tomorrow. And so, what I did not do today, I did not exercise, I did not meditate, I did not do vision therapy, and I did not enjoy any of my hobbies today. So, you can imagine Rachel felt a little poopy today. But what I did do today, and this is significant, is I cried today. And I don't cry a lot. I am really constantly pushing myself to keep walking, keep walking. And it's a significant event for me to cry. Um, and I'm glad that I didn't cry alone. I really am. Um, so what am I going to do tomorrow? I'm going to do all those things I didn't do today. I'm going to do yoga. I'm going to meditate. I'm going to do my vision therapy homework, and I'm going to keep keep working towards getting ready to make my first cuts for my quilt because I still have not made my first cut. I'm nervous about making the first cut on the material. So anyway, that's what I'm gonna do. A sincere thank you to everybody who listens to this podcast. I really can't tell you how much it helps when I see that little count that says how many people listen to the episode. It makes me feel like I'm not alone, And I know that that's digital, and I don't know if that's weird or what it is, but I know that I'm not alone. The people who are listening are people who care about me, care about learning from my experiences, and most often are people who are also wanting to call me and text me and stuff on the side and offering to come bake with me and garden with me and stuff like that. So I'm eternally grateful for everybody who's out there just uh, on my team. So thanks for listening, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.